Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to the video. I want to do a quick Blitz deck tag. I haven't really done Blitz deck tags for quite some time now because Blitz is not really a supported format anymore. However, we have Skirmish coming up, so which means that now I'm a little bit excited and having that itch again that I want to get some Blitz decks out there, especially on the Patreon, so keep an eye out for that, patreon.com/GaganaGaming. And the first deck that I want to cover in what is probably going to be a series over the next few weeks is Yoji, the Royal Protector. So first of all, Yoji, you have a big fridge that can block a ton of damage. If you combine everything of that and you put it on top of the high life total that Yoji has in general, you just have a very solid deck. It's just sickening how much this deck can block. Some decks can still outvalue you, or they do a big spiky dominate turn here and there, and then Yoji cannot do all that much. For the most part, you're going to be winning most of your games by simply blocking a lot. I went with a very big blue base in the deck. Like, you could run other red cards in here like Spinal Crush for example, or even things like the red Thunderquakes to have even more high roll potential of those on the first turn. But instead I went with a slightly more blue plan because when I was playing it with the Spinal Crushes and with the Thunderquake red, I ran into some issues like not having enough blues in hand and then having a bunch of big attacks that I couldn't really do anything with. And pitching 3 reds for the Titan Fizz is not really ideal either, so I trimmed down the red slot, so now I only have 14 with the sideboard included into here, which leaves us with 26 cards that are blue in the deck. It's enough to usually have enough blues in hand to pull off some cool stuff like a Choke Slam into a Pommel for example. You still run into some issues sometimes, so I've even been considering like, should I cut the Pulverize down to 1? Or maybe cut the Choke Slams out completely to increase the blue count even further, but I think as this right now, some RNG is okay, you just don't want to have too much RNG. You won't have it all the time, sometimes you're only gonna have 1 blue, but if you have 1 blue, you just attack with the Titan Fizz and just call it a day. For the blue slots, I actually want something spicy in there, so I went with Imposing Visage in combination with Stamp Authority. Imposing Visage, if you have to go first, then you can search your deck, maybe pitch 2 blue cards in order to play this one, and then you can grab an aura card from your deck that costs X or less. Then you can go for something like a Stamp Authority. That says if you have 2 or more cards in your pitch zone that cost 3 or greater, your hero gains +1 intellect until the end of turn. This is good because pretty much every single blue in this deck is 3 or greater, so no matter how you pitch this, you're going to be +1 intellect and you're still going to be having a card that you can put into your arsenal. You have a good power turn on turn 1. And at the same time, you don't give your opponent the opportunity to mulligan their hand. I wanted to fit some stuff like Buckles in here too, but I felt the Buckles with the Terrasunders becomes too many cards that don't do anything on their own, so I went with just the Terrasunders and I ended up cutting the Buckles out. I put the Boulder Drops from the recent Blitz deck in here. It seems kind of weak at a glance if you're up against a deck that doesn't really want to block. This kind of puts them into a position that they have to block, and the more times you can get them to block, the better, because our strategy is to fatigue the opponent out, and a card like this kind of helps. Buckling Blow, Cranial Crush, Debilitate and Disable are just generally high value blues that you can play. We have the Macho Grande, which can help you to close out games like this one. If you play it as Dominate, it's already coming in for 8. If you throw something like a Pommel on top of that, you're probably going to be winning that game. Does require some setup again, that's why I've tried to keep the red consistency a little bit on the lower side, because if you want to pull something off like a Macho Grande and have a Pommel on top of this, you need to have almost a full blue hand to be able to make that work. But then again, as an 8 Dominate with just 2 pitch cards, if you do have the Seismic Surge, it's just good value, and I kind of like it in that regard. Browse the Ancients. 7 go again if you can reveal 13 or more power. I mean, the Pulverize alone is already enough to pay for that. Like, you just show the Pulverize and this one will have +7 and go again. We have Unmovable, Thunderquake to go together with the Pulverize to try and get some very early high roll synergy there. We have Choke Slams, Command and Conquer, Pommels, Sigil Cells that sing below. Then for the sideboard we have Fateful Scene and Oasis Respite. I have the Anatas in here. There are some matchups where the Anatas can be quite useful, particularly the matchups that are a little bit on the slower side themselves, like other mid-range strategy. If you're up against an Assassin, for example, then the Anatas can be quite useful. Also quite useful against opposing Guardian decks. Just keep swinging for 6 every single turn. In regards to abilities on these, like the Creative Thirsty abilities, if you're a new player, you can just completely ignore that. You just use this for the blocking. It has a 2 block, and then after that it has a 1 block. The specific steps you want to block at a smart moment. If you're up against a Kasai, for example, you want to block their first Saber, for example, so that that one will not hit, and they're going to be giving go again to that Saber anyway, because they want to be attacking them with the second one. So if at that point you give them a quicken token, it doesn't really help them because they need to give go again to the current Saber, and then the next one they attack it in with a kind of have no value with that quicken token unless they have something like a Nourishing Emptiness in hand, but if they do well, that's just unfortunate then. So if you block smartly with the Civic Steps, you get a lot of value out of that one as well. This one is just a tree block with Temper, and this one is Battle-worn, so even after you've blocked the tree, you can continue to keep activating this one for the Seismic Surge auras. Whenever you have the chance, like sometimes your opponent just doesn't have anything to play out and you end up with way too many cards in hand, and activating the Tectonic Plating is kind of a good idea there. Sigil of Solace, it's not great because it doesn't block, and sometimes if you're up against decks that have hits, then you kind of wish that this just had a 3 block value instead. However, I found in the very first turn, even if you're going second, if you have a Sigil of Solace in hand early on, you can play it, you're already at +3 life, which can be quite useful in general. You could play even more life gain things in hand instead of the Pulverizer specifically. However, I think a full-on life gain Yoji deck is not really that successful anymore. It used to be, it was a very successful deck back when we could sideboard and we could add even more cards on top of the 40 cards into the deck. But I think right now it's not that great anymore, so I just go for the Sigil Solace and I don't add anything else in here. But yeah, that's pretty much all for Yoji. If you want to spike a big Skirmish event, I think a deck like this can really get you there. So I'm probably going to be running this one in the Skirmish season. I hope you will have fun with it too. I will leave a link down in the description. If you want to support me, you can do so on patreon.com/GooganaGaming. That's all from me for today. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you're gonna play Yoji, leave a comment down below, and I will see you all very soon with another Flesh and Blood video. Take care.